Oh, well, no matter what happens in the coming months, it's already clear that the 2016 U.S. presidential election is going to go down on record as one of the strangest ever. At this point, it still seems like both the Democratic and Republican parties could nominate populist outsiders as their candidates. This is completely unprecedented. But, naturally, as pundits, we're going to look for precedents anyway. Today, I'd like to suggest one. But I'd also like to show how the examples that most establishment commentators are using completely miss the point. The establishment talking heads already have the examples that they want to use, and they're pushing them really, really hard. When you look at Bernie Sanders, they want you to see 1972 Democratic candidate George McGovern. And when you look at Donald Trump, they want you to see 1964 Republican candidate Barry Goldwater.
The philosophy of something for nothing, the cult of individual and government irresponsibility, is an insidious cancer that will destroy us as a people unless we recognize it and root it out now. I say it is time to put conscience back in government, and by good example, put it back in all walks of American life.
In your heart, you know he's right. Vote for Barry Goldwater.
In 1964, the Republicans went with their hearts and nominated Barry Goldwater, a senator from Arizona who was seen as crazily right-wing at the time. A fear that his election might lead to nuclear war, helped by some great ads from Lyndon B. Johnson's team, led Goldwater to lose the election by one of the largest margins ever.
Now, I think we need a president who isn't afraid to say, I'm going to change my mind, I made a mistake. And sometimes you ought to be able to say to the people, this is not going to be popular, but this is what we're going to have to do to save our country. You have to make those hard decisions.
McGovern, Democrat, for the people.
In 1972, as many members of the baby boom voted for the first time, the Democratic Party nominated South Dakota Senator George McGovern. He advocated quick withdrawal from Vietnam and a number of less popular liberal policies. After a really poor choice of a vice president, the expected youthquake failed to materialize, and McGovern lost by an even bigger margin than Goldwater. These examples come up over and over again. Sanders supporters complain that the media keeps bringing up these examples to convince people not to vote their principles. I won't say this often, but on this, Sanders supporters are absolutely right. The establishment wants to reinforce the message that if you vote for a candidate you actually believe in, you'll lose. But I don't think the establishment is just using these examples to scare Sanders and Trump supporters. I think they're actually also using them to keep themselves from panicking. These 2016 candidates are real outsiders. McGovern and Goldwater were Democratic and Republican senators of good standing. They served their parties loyally for decades. They certainly represented outliers within their party's ideologies, but they weren't that far from the mainstream. Bernie Sanders has been a congressperson for some time now, but he's done it as an independent, not as a Democrat. When he starts talking about the banks and rich people, he makes the party leadership very, very nervous. Donald Trump is a reality TV star and golf course operator with no governing experience. When he starts attacking globalization or immigration or trade deals or established U.S. allies, he goes against decades of Republican Party policy. By comparing Sanders and Trump to the safer renegades of yesteryear, what the establishment is trying to do is avoid the fact that both the Democratic and Republican parties are in serious, serious trouble. There are a couple examples that I think are a little more on point, but to see them, we've got to go back to the 19th century. The election of 1860 ended up with the death of a party and a civil war. Thankfully, we're nowhere near there yet. The image that sticks in my head the most is that of Andrew Jackson. Jackson spent some time representing Tennessee and Washington, D.C., but he was so universally loathed by the establishment of the day that they flat out stole the presidency from him in 1824. Jackson won the popular vote and the Electoral College by large margins in that four-way contest, but they gave the presidency to John Quincy Adams instead. When Jackson came roaring back to win by an outright majority in 1828, his victory wasn't just personal, it signified the destruction of the cozy elite that had run the country since independence. There's a lot to dislike about Andrew Andrew Jackson. But his existence as a political figure was a sign that people really were sick enough of the way things were organized to bring it crashing down. 2016 may end up being a little more 1824 than 1828, but the Sanders and Trump candidacies are a sign that we're about to see some very serious changes. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And if you'd like to help me make more videos like this one, please click on the Patreon link here to find out how.